Hey everybody, welcome to Lock in Dallas. This is where we talk about sports and sports related topics. We have Ashud Zuberi, we have Sahil Desai, and of course I'm Aaron Favors. So just to start off today's episode, episode 3 is coming a little late. We promised y'all a Las Vegas episode. Guys, what happened?
It was gonna be a week ago, so I think we were up in the stratosphere at this time,
Yeah,
about a week ago. But yeah, man, Vegas was a good time with y'all. I know we had been talking about that for a while, since college, going on the guys trip to Vegas. So, man, it was a good time. Did a lot of things. Ate some good food. Um,
the food was
uh,
really good. I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
expecting it to be as good as it was.
yeah, yeah,
And like not to make excuses, but we didn't like sleep a lot. Vegas is weird, like time wise. You know what I mean? It's like you can run on like a few hours of sleep. So and during the day, like you said, we did the Stratosphere, we had the buffet. There's just so much to do. I think I could have spent like I was too tired to, but I could have spent a few more days there. So yeah, Sahil, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we visited like 15 hotels and casinos.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time. We did a lot of walking, but a lot of awesome sightseeing. Did a little bit of dancing and stuff like that. So it was a great time with y'all for sure.
Yeah, like I should mention, we went to the top of the stratosphere. There was a thing where you could jump off the stratosphere, like and be connected to like a bungee cord. All of us were too afraid to do it for because it was.
yeah.
I think it's
you,
like
hey, you were talking that big talk. You were ready to go, and then once you got up there,
I probably if you I was ready, but no one was ready. Like you know what I'm saying? I would have jumped. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
yeah,
man, but yeah, that was a good time. I loved how all the hotels had like a theme, so it's kind of like you're
yeah.
going around the world, like New York, Egypt, like Paris, and
I was really impressed with
Italy.
the pyramid. Is it called the Luxor?
Yeah, the Luxor.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I like that one with the
yeah,
hieroglyphics and everything.
yeah. And there
Okay.
was still so much we didn't do,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's
yeah,
still
I
so much
know,
to.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, we didn't really even talk about. We talked about the food. Yo, that buffet at the Win. Yo, it was so good.
That was something else.
It
That
was
was
so
something else.
good. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. First topic: the Olympics started yesterday, right? And wait, did this start yesterday? Or maybe it was the day before.
I
When was
think,
the?
yeah, I think the opening ceremony was
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Friday. Yeah, yeah. So the opening ceremony was Friday, and then we had like some events happening yesterday and today. USA men's basketball is competing. We have LeBron James, Steph Curry on the team, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, a lot of you know a lot of the stars, superstars in our NBA, right? Um, they seem like by far they're the favorite. Do you think there are any teams that could give America a challenge when it comes to USA men's basketball?
So I think there definitely could be. We saw during the kind of the exhibition games, kind of leading up to the Olympics, that some teams were giving them some problems, or I mean, they really had to work hard to kind of win those games, which we were all surprised about. I think the South Sudan game, they won by 1 point, or the game after that against Germany, they didn't win, as much as they were favored by. And so I definitely think there's always a chance, especially in these tournaments like this, where it's when they get into the knockout stage, all you need is one game, right? It's not like the NBA playoffs where they have to win 4 games to advance. It's like one game and you're out. So I was really going between two teams here, but I think I'm gonna go with Canada. I think if there's any team that's gonna give the U.S. an upset, I think it would be Canada, just because they have probably the most NBA, ready team. They have most of their rosters compromised by NBA players, led by Shea Gilgeous. They have Dylan Brooks, who's obviously he's a character, but he's a great defender. They have our man Dwight Powell manning the middle for them. And
Okay.
they just have a lot of good pieces, I feel like, around them. Especially SGA, who we know as Mavs fans, he can just kind of lead a team and carry a team on his own. And I feel like in that given environment, like one game win all, Canada, I think, can give the U.S. a run for their money. Now, do I think they're going to win? No, But I think if you're choosing any team, I would go with Canada.
Yeah. Sahil, how do you feel about Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I think Canada's a really great team. They got like so many really good NBA players. Like I should mention Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I know like another team that's like really good is France. Also, they kind of got the home crowd on their side. So I feel like they could also compete against USA. But I don't know. I just don't see USA losing any games. I mean, they're just so talented. I feel like they're like dunking on like every play. These transition plays. You got like LeBron running the court full steam. They're really fun to watch, but yeah, I really think Canada could be a good team to go against, and also France, maybe even Australia. They kind of gave the U.S. some trouble, I think, a few years back. But yeah.
Yeah, gosh, I agree with both of you. I think that the team with the highest chance is probably Canada, because like Ashid mentioned, they have all of these elite NBA guards, like SGA. He was an MVP candidate, right? And then they have Jamal Murray, who's a champion, RJ Barrett, um,
Lou Dort.
Lou Dort. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess the only thing that's kind of holding me back from I mean, I think America is going to get the gold, but I think the thing that's going to probably hurt Canada is that I don't know if they have like a big man that can match up with the United States, because I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know they have Dwight Powell. What other big man do they have?
They got Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, see what I mean? No disrespect. I'm just saying that, we have Joel Embiid, Bam Adebayo, so I think that's gonna be, and then we have Kevin Durant's where they're like 7 foot tall and can play like a guard. So I think it's gonna be challenging for Canada to kind of stop the height and kind of the dominance that we'll probably have in the paint. And then I also agree with Sahil. I think France is awesome. They have a lot of veteran NBA players surrounding Victor Wembanyama, who I assume we all agree is on blossoming into a superstar, right? And I think that we have our dark horses. We have maybe Germany, maybe South Sudan, just because they played US pretty close. But at the end of the day, I think that the best choices are probably Canada and France. So I do agree with y'all. And I think Sahil, I think you mentioned it, that France, they have a home field advantage, right? So I was looking at the medal count earlier today, and it was pretty remarkable because the United States had, I think, 9 medals so far. France has 7, so they were second. You know what I mean? So I think that playing at home does help. So, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I feel like if you combined Canada's guards and then French's big men,
Yeah, that's what I'm
I feel like then maybe you could beat the US, but maybe
yeah,
on their own. But
because France has Rudy Gobert, and they have, like I said, Victor Wembanyama. Like if they could come together, maybe they'll like unite as a country and make like a huge, yeah, like
hey, world peace! Like
yeah,
everybody's, US is Thanos. Everybody goes together like the Avengers.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Kind of still staying with the NBA. We have Ashid Zuberry making a list. He has Ashid. You made a list of the three overrated and 3 underrated NBA players in the league. So what are we gonna call this list? Is this like the Oogie Woogie list?
Hey, y'all know me. Like I be watching ball. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I see the discourse. Some players they don't get talked about a lot, and then I see them play, and then I'm like, yo, like, or I mean, these players do get talked about, but maybe not as much as maybe they should be. And then I also see some players that get talked about all the time that maybe should not be getting that recognition or that attention, or maybe they're just they just are not worthy of it yet. Yet, I like the Oogie Woogie list. I like that. Like Oogie Oogie overrated, Woogie underrated.
Exactly.
Um, all right, so y'all want me to go underrated or overrated first?
We can talk here. Let's talk about your underrated, because the overrated,
Underrated.
yeah.
All right, so I did top three for both, not in any particular order, but I had some honorable mentions that I had like a list of like probably 10 for each that that couldn't make the final cut. So underrated honorable mentions, I got OG Ananobi, I had Desmond Bain, Jalen Williams, J Dub, um, and then the two Pelican players, Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. I feel like they're all pretty underrated, but they all have a strong skill set. And then I included Derek White, who probably was underrated before this year, but now I feel like he's kind of getting his flowers. I mean, he's on the USA team. I guess, do y'all have any comments or concerns about that before I get into the actual top three?
No, I think that's great, especially with Derek White. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
after watching the finals, you realize how important he is to the team because he hustles, he plays great defense. We talked about him a little bit last podcast, but
yeah.
he shoots well, and yeah, he's amazing. So what do you think, Sahil?
Yeah, I mean those names that he said so far, I think they're all underrated. Those are the type of players you need if you want to win a championship. But those are the players that don't get talked up that much. Like we saw in
Yeah,
the finals, like guys like Drew Holiday and Derek White, they don't really get talked about a lot, but they're so important if you want to win a championship because they do the little things. They make the right pass. They'll hit that open three. They'll play hard on defense all day long. They might not hit the big shot, but they are capable of doing that at times. So I like that list. I like the OG and the J Dub. Those are like really young players. And we haven't even seen their potential yet. Like they're going to be even better. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of these are younger players, so maybe as their careers go on, they'll get the proper attention.
yeah.
So I guess kind of on that note, the first player that I had on my list was a former number one pick. Now, as a number one pick, you might think, oh, they should be getting the flowers, the attention they need, especially after leading his team to the playoffs last year. But I just feel like the national media, I don't see posts, I don't see tweets about our man Paolo Banchero,
Yeah.
like a 6'9" guard forward combo, can score, can pass, can dribble. He, like I said, he led his team to the playoffs last year. He just is like the modern player that every team strives for. But like I said, I don't see a lot of people give him his flowers. What do y'all think about that?
No, I think I totally agree with you. I mean, it's I thought he could have been on the team USA team. I think he played well enough this year to deserve that. I think like you said, he's really young. He's drafted only a few years ago, and he's already the best player on his team. And they were a playoff team this year, and so yeah, I think that he's only going to get better and better. But he's definitely underrated as of right now. What do you think, Sahil?
Yeah, I mean he's only played like 2 years, so yeah, he hasn't gotten a lot of attention. But he probably will be these next few years. He's definitely a rising star, especially in the East. But yeah, to bring your team to the playoffs in your second year, a team that usually doesn't go to the playoffs is pretty impressive. And they even like surrounded him with better talent. Like they went and got out KCP, a veteran. So I feel like they're gonna be better. But yeah, he definitely is an underrated player. A lot of things that he can do, not a lot of players can do. Like you say, he's like 6'9", but he can run the court full speed. He's a playmaker. If you need him to make the right pass, he'll make the right pass. He can score, and yeah, he's gonna get better and better from here on out.
Yeah, I totally agree with y'all, man. Like, I watched him play earlier in his mid range. He had mid range. He was knocking down threes. He was defending. I was like, this is like the perfect like in theory, it's like a perfect player to have like on a championship team. So I
Yeah,
think he'll keep developing, and along with Franz Wagner, and they have a lot of good pieces around them, bro. The Magic, I'm looking forward to them this next year.
yeah,
All right, the second player I had, we kind of talked about him on the first pod. I believe we were talking about kind of underrated team or like underrated moves, and probably because he is underrated, is Alex Caruso. He there was a lot of talk about him when he was with the Lakers, just because he was with the Lakers. But I feel like when he got to the Bulls, the hype died down. But man, if he like, he's kind of in that same mold as Derek White, I would say, where you have a guard, a lockdown defender who can steal, make the right plays. I really do feel like he could be the final piece that OKC needs. Because if you have Caruso and Cason Wallace in the backcourt, you got SGA, you got J Dub, you got Chet. Yo, that is locked down. Like that's a great team right there. So I think just as like that Derek White mold, I think Alex Caruso can really do it all. He's a capable shooter, but I think he's a really locked down defender, can steal, make the right plays, and kind of in that. I think he's definitely one of the most underrated players in the league. Sahil, what do you think about that?
Yeah, he for sure is. I remember when he was with the Lakers, like a lot of people didn't really know who he was. He was like some bald old guy, but
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was huge when they won the championship back in the bubble. And you could tell like players love playing with him. Like I remember, I think I read like DeRozan, when he found out they traded him, he kind of didn't want to go back to Chicago. So he's just a winning type player. And yeah, OKC is gonna look really good. Like they're like my favorite in the West for next year because getting Hartenstein, Caruso, I mean those are like really big championship pieces. But For sure, yeah. Like he's one of those guys that just does the little things. Like he doesn't need the ball in his hands to make a big impact. He's the type of guy where you tell him to do something, he'll go do it. If you want him to defend at a high level, play full court, if you want him to handle the ball a little bit, if you want him to rebound, get steals, he's gonna do those things, and he's gonna take a lot of pressure off of SGA and Jada and those guys. So yeah, he's a really underrated player and huge pickup by OKC.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I have OKC as the front runners in the West on my standings on my West standings list. And I think that Caruso he can score pretty well, I think he averaged 10 points a game this last season. And I think that like y'all said, he plays great defense. I think he's a really strong like role player. So yeah, I think he's a great player to have on your team if you're trying to win a championship. So I agree. So
All right.
who's your last
My
underrated player?
my last underrated player who's been getting more attention recently, but I think once he gets traded to a more capable team, I think he'll get fully the flowers that he deserves. Is Lauri Markkanen from the Utah Jazz. He's kind of like I wouldn't say average, but he was doing all right with the Cavs. And then he gets traded to the Jazz, where I think he's kind of blossoming into a star. He's like a big kind of not in that mold, but you kind of get reminded of Dirk, where it's a tall white guy that can shoot, but I feel like young Dirk, where he's athletic, he can kind of dribble, knockdown shooter from three. I think there's been some rumors that the Warriors are trying to trade for him. I think he would be an amazing fit with the Warriors alongside with Steph Curry. I think that would be like an unstoppable two-man game. I just don't feel like he's talked a lot as much. I think the Mavs were interested in him as well. And if you paired him along with Luka or somebody, that would be a crazy duo as well. But Laurie kind of just a really sharp shooter, can defend, very athletic, is a big guy, can rebound. Probably like an average defender, probably not the best, but he can defend. And I think he's probably the missing piece in one of these teams that's kind of right on the bubble. Like for example, the Warriors that could kind of take him a step above, play along with Steph Curry as he kind of gets a little bit older. Maybe the Lakers, if they want to trade for him, like Laurie and AD, 4 and 5 man, that'd be an unstoppable big man duo. So I think he'll kind of get more attention once he does get traded, because I do anticipate the Utah Jazz trading him probably sometime during the season.
Okay, so you said that you think Lauri Markkanen would be good on the Mavs?
And like before the Clay trade, I think that's when we were interested in him. But I think
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah, I mean, I think in theory he would have been like a better Porzingis, because Laurie is like a 4, where he's not really necessarily a 5, and I think he can kind of defend, move. He's more athletic than Porzingis. I think he would have been a good fit here, but just in overall basketball terms, I think he is underrated, because he's on the Utah Jazz,
I think we already tried that experiment
yeah.
before with Kristaps Porzingis, like with that player type. So I
got
really
you.
like the centers we have now, because I think we need more like Tyson Chandler types, instead of like kind of the I don't want to say, I don't want to use the word like soft, but like like really
White.
no, like like dominant in the paint. I feel
I know
like
what you mean.
Markkanen's more.
Yeah.
He likes to play outside of the paint, with the shoot.
Okay, I guess my question like for you is like I see Laurie Markkanen more as like a power forward, not as a center, which I think that's what he
Oh,
plays with
okay,
the Utah
yeah.
Jazz. So it's kind of like, would you rather have Laurie or PJ Washington? Which I love
I
PJ.
think I'd rather have PJ Washington,
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean that's a different question,
Yeah.
but I do feel like Laurie is a better basketball player though than PJ.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but maybe like offensively, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard because like you say, I think Laurie Markkanen is a great player, by the way, but you say that he's underrated. I feel like he's properly rated, though. I don't know,
No,
because
that's
I mean, I think that like, do you think he should have been an All-Star this year? Because I think he got snubbed.
Yeah, well, I think he struggled with injuries and stuff this past year, which is why I think we weren't talking about him as much. But I think if he stays healthy, and like I said, I think if he gets traded to a more relevant team, I think that's when he'll get his proper kind of attention. Sahil, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Aaron brought a good point. I think he is kind of properly rated. Like, I think he's
Yeah.
about to get a big contract. I believe Utah's planning on like signing him to a lot of money and then maybe trading him at the deadline or something like that. So he might become like overrated, like maybe within the next year. But I do get your point. Like he's such a skilled player. There's not a lot of like 7-footers that can do what Markkinen does. Like he's honestly like like a better Porzingis. He's more stronger, more athletic. He can create his own shot. He's a really good sharpshooter too. Like if you
He could
just
be
see him,
the number one on the team.
he could be, yeah. And if
Yeah.
he's on a championship team, he could be like your third guy. Like a team like the Warriors, I think they're trying to get him. I don't know if they want to trade away their young guys for him, but yeah, he's a big name. So you might start hearing his name a lot more, especially at the deadline.
Yeah, and when I say number one for a team, I'm not saying necessarily a playoff team, but he can be a number one for kind of like, the Jazz who are just trying to, get back into the mix of things, right? And I think that I don't know, I agree. I agree with Sahil. I think that he's properly rated because I don't think he's top like I don't know if he's top like 30, like maybe barely. And then also I think that he's about to get a big contract. I think that when he was with the Bulls, no one was talking about him. He really struggled, right? But then when he got with the Jazz is when he blossomed. Well, he's kind of blossoming because he is that number one, right? He is kind of the guy that he's the most consistent out of all the players that they have when it comes to scoring and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think he's properly rated. I don't think anybody's dismissing his talent. I mean, Sahil mentioned how the Warriors are trying to get him. I mean, they're getting him for a reason. They're getting him to kind of be that number two to Steph. So I don't think anybody's, dismissing him as if he's like a role player or anything.
I guess what I mean is like when I see like people talk about like best big men in the league or like dominant big men in the league, or like like power forwards. I just don't see his name pop up a lot of times, and I feel like his name does like belong in the conversation.
Is he dominant?
I think, dude, there's some games where it's like, yo, like he can be the best player on the court. I mean, I do feel like he's one of the best big men in the league, and that I think that's where I think that he's underrated. That he's not in those like I think he's better than Chet right now. Yeah. Do y'all think he's better than Chet?
Probably so. Yeah,
then that's what I'm saying. I'm hearing all this talk about Chet. He's the future. He's all this, and these things. But I mean, Laurie is older and Chet is younger, and probably Chet will be better than him. Maybe, who knows? But I see Chet, more involved in those conversations than Laurie, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of kind of another big man around that range where I feel like, you know what? So that's what I meant by underrated. But I definitely see where you guys are coming from, though.
Yeah, I guess I think. Oh, go ahead.
I think like Utah. I guess a big part of it is because like Utah just loses a lot of games. OKC was like number one in the West, so everyone's talking about Chet. Yeah, I think he's also more of like a likable player. Like you see Chet in those PT commercials. And all
hey, what a pro wants. What a pro.
Yeah, so that's a good point. But like, because one thing that you said, all those players like Banchero, Caruso, like they're all in small market teams. Like they don't. Nobody talks about the Magic or the Jazz. People are starting to talk about the Thunder, so that's a good point. Hopefully, we could like hear their names a lot more. But yeah, Markkinen is definitely underrated. Like he can get you like 25 a game if you really wanted to. So
yeah.
I guess when I think about dominance, though, I think about like Shaq, like just coming down, like breaking glass, like hey, there's 4 people on him and he's still scoring. That's dominance to me. You know what I mean? And I think that. I think Chet got talked about more because he was a number 1 seed. The Jazz, they didn't make the playoffs, so I think that's probably why Chet got talked about more. I do think Markkinen's better, mainly because, like I said, I do think he's the number 1 for the team he's on right now, right? And I think if he joined the Warriors, he would be the number 2, right? And I think Chet, he kind of struggled as we saw in the playoffs, and we'll see if it changes. But he did kind of struggle being the number 2 in the playoffs. It seemed like there was a lot of games where SGA was just kind of being Batman out there. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. So, I get. I was as y'all were talking, I was thinking about like other like kind of big men like him. Like, do y'all think he's better than like Karl Anthony Towns? Who, I mean, we know he gets talked about a lot, but I feel like he's better than Cat. You know what I mean? So, but when
I think Cat's kind of overrated.
Yeah, he was on my he was on my honorable mentions, but
yo, when Cat is on though, he's pretty dominant. I mean, I remember he had that one game against the Mavs.
Well, you were just talking about Shaq. You were just talking about Shaq being dominant. You cannot put Cat in the same category.
I've seen Cat come down the lane on people. Yo.
Laurie's done that same thing, bro. Laurie's got some posters, bro. But yeah, but that's what I mean. Like when I see a lot of people talk about Karl Anthony Towns and stuff, but I feel like just as a player, I feel like Laurie's better than a lot of these players that we kind of have in the top 5. But I definitely see where you guys are coming from. You guys are are we cool with that? Y'all want me to move on to overrated?
Great. Thank you. Great list. What do you have for overrated now? Since we're kind of talking about overrated,
yeah. All right, honorable mentions. All right, this one, I think this one will stir up some controversy, so we'll see.
Okay.
All right, I had some that I wanted to talk about, but I feel like everybody calls them overrated already, so I didn't want to include them. All right, so like Rudy Gobert, obviously we kind of all know is overrated.
Hey, he was. Look at him out there dancing. Salsa.
James Harden, I feel like a lot of people can agree he's pretty overrated.
Playoff wise, regular season, that dude was tough. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say that he's not overrated just based off the playoffs.
Yeah. Bradley Beal. These are my honorable mentions, by the way. Yeah, Bradley Beal, I feel like is pretty overrated. Probably the worst contract in the league right now. Terrible defender. Is injury prone. He's a good scorer, but that was a terrible trade by the Suns. I don't know what they were thinking. And then these next two y'all might disagree with. I think LaMelo Ball is pretty overrated. I feel like for the amount of attention he gets and the amount of I see Bleacher Report post him whenever he does a highlight, like Bleacher Report post him, and that boy's hurt 75% of the year anyways. And then I have my last honorable mention. I didn't include him because of his playoff resume, but I just don't think he's all that. And I think y'all are gonna disagree with this one. I went with Jimmy Butler, last honorable mention. I think he's a little bit overrated, just because. In the regular season, it just doesn't seem like he gives it his all. He seems like he just coasts until the playoffs and then just tries to turn it up. And then they have such a terrible seeding or they have a terrible matchup. It's like it doesn't work. He can't shoot the three. He's not as good of a defender as he once was. All he can do is kind of get in the mid-range and shoot those mid-range. He's not the best passer. He's kind of a small guard, forward-ish, can't really rebound well. I think he's pretty overrated. And the only reason I didn't include him was because of his playoff resume. What do y'all think about my honorable mentions?
So he'll go first. Mine's gonna
take I agree with Rudy Gobert. First of all, he gets paid way too much to do what he does. Derek Lively does a better job than Gobert and Gafford. Bradley Beal is overrated. It's tough though, because you mentioned LaMelo Ball. I feel like just because a player gets injured, does that make them overrated? Because if he was 100% healthy, he probably would have been way better than what he is now. So I feel
do you think he can lead his team in the playoffs? I just look. You see the eye test. You look at LaMelo. He's got ear tattoos by his ear or whatever it was. That boy be running red lights. I don't know if y'all seen the videos of him driving. So I just don't see a championship player when I look at LaMelo Ball.
We're going based off.
Hey, eye test, bro. Eye test.
He has tattoos on his ears. So he's over. What? He's on House of Highlights too much. It's because he does all the fancy behind the back stuff, which I know a lot of people, they want that Tim Duncan where they do everything correct, but it makes, people like the fancy, the flashy stuff. I think that LaMelo Ball, he doesn't really have a lot of help, to be fair. And then there's a lot of turnover when it comes to the coaching. I don't know. I feel I'm not saying he's one of the best in the league, but I think he's probably properly rated. And then, because I think if Sahil said, if he didn't struggle with injuries, kind of like his brother, I think the potential is there, right? So, and then I think, God, the Jimmy Butler thing is just so bad, man. So he took an 8th seed to a finals, and he's overrated. And who gives a damn about the regular season? If you perform in the playoffs, that's all that matters. So, Eli Manning, is Eli Manning overrated? He won 2 Super Bowls. So he didn't play that well. Wait, hold on. He didn't play that well in the regular season, but then he won 2 Super Bowls and he beat Tom Brady. So he's just super overrated. I don't know. I think if you deliver,
Eli Manning is overrated, bro. He was not a.
If you deliver in the playoffs, that's the most important thing. So Jimmy Butler, he always delivers, man. He's carried his team to Eastern Conference Finals and then to the finals. I think that.
And then where's the
I saw on the bubble. Hold on 1 second. I saw on the bubble where he played his heart out. He has the whole meme where he's hanging over the thing. And he took the Lakers to Game 6. Did you see those teams? The Lakers had a way better team than the Heat did. You know what I mean? And I saw an 8 seed beat a number 1 seed, the Bucks. I saw him catch a ball. There was probably like half a second left. He caught the ball. He's like in midair with one arm. There's three people all over him, and he made that shot. He makes incredible, crazy plays because he's super clutch. You know what I mean? So I think to say that he's overrated,
All right, all right. Sal, I want you to go, and then I'll respond.
Yeah, I gotta say he is underrated. We can't
yeah, it's
forget what he
very
did.
underrated, not
We can't
overrated.
forget what he did in 2023. He beat the Boston Celtics. They were like the favorite to go to the finals
Yes,
last year,
yes,
and he beat them in
exactly.
7 games. He had a 3-0 lead. Then it was tied 3-3, and he still managed to win Game 7 on the road, which is pretty incredible. He's being like Giannis in the first round. He beat the Knicks. He's gone to the
Yes.
finals twice. He doesn't have a ring, but like he's playing against LeBron and Jokic. And let's be fair, he doesn't have a lot of help. Like it's just Adebayo and Tyler Hero is kind of
Yes,
unreliable.
it's like coaching and team chemistry. And Sahil, was he the best player in all those teams?
On the Miami Heat, yeah.
Okay, that's called being underrated. You carried an AC to the finals.
All right, I mean, y'all bring up great points, and just I don't have him in my top three. That's all I'm gonna say. But I just think first off, he's moved around like 3 times. I think he started his career with the Bulls, right, and then he got traded to the Wolves. So he's moved around like 4 times.
So as marketing,
Wait,
what?
wait,
Who
wait, wait,
cares? Who
wait.
cares?
Trust. And I think it's part of it. Like he has a great, like, I mean, I'm sure people like praise his attitude and his like mentality and stuff, but I just like I said, like I don't see I don't see the championships. I mean, he has that playoff resume, but I think he's getting older. He's not the player that he once was. His reluctance to take threes, I think, has really caused him dearly. It really forces players or forces him to just rely on the two. And I just don't think that. I think as he's getting older, I think he's kind of what's the word? Kind of aging. His basketball stats are not aging the best. Last year he averaged 20 points a game.
That's pretty. That's
On
really good.
Yeah, but is it best player on the team good? Like is it championship worthy good? And I don't think those 20 points a game are gonna get higher. When you have Luka averaging 33, you have Tatum averaging 28, you got Curry averaging 30. Butler's not going to be the player that he once was, and I don't think he's ever going to lead his team to a championship. I don't think he's one of the best players in the league anymore. So, and people talk about him like he is, so I think he's overrated.
Please, wait, time out. Please let me respond. Hold on.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
okay, sir. So you brought up Markkanen earlier. He literally was with the Bulls. He moved around a bit. I don't think we should discredit somebody because they moved around, especially because one of the teams he moved to has overrated players, like you talked about, like Karl Anthony Towns, to where he didn't have the best team. That's probably a big reason why he moved because he knew that he wasn't going to get anywhere with the teams he was with. He was with the Chicago Bulls. They didn't have a good team for him. He was with the Timberwolves. They didn't have a good team with him. I think he was with the Timberwolves back when they had Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. You know
Isn't
what I
that a
mean?
good team? Like, isn't that what
Not
Anthony
back
Edwards
then.
has
No,
right now?
Andrew.
Isn't that what Anthony
No,
Edwards has
no, no,
right
no,
now?
no, 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 no. Andrew Wiggins was not as good as he was as he's great with the Warriors, but he wasn't like that with the Timberwolves. And you just said Karl Anthony Towns is overrated and he doesn't perform. Hold on, wait, let me finish my point. I'll let you respond. And then like you bring up his stats are like aging. Well, yeah, he's getting older. So that's like us diminishing Tim Duncan when he made his final runs with the Spurs. His stats weren't that good. He wasn't even the number one on his team when they were making those final runs. It was Kawhi Leonard. He was the one winning the Finals MVP. No one discredited him. The Miami Heat culture is not about like one person. It's about like a team. So he's averaging 20 points on a team culture. He's an aging player. That's pretty good to me. I'm not saying he's like a top 10 player in the league, but am I going to say that he's clutch? I am. Am I going to say he's very underrated? I am. Am I going to say he's the number one on a playoff team that was literally in the finals a year ago? I will say that.
Sal, go ahead if you had anything to add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he is getting older, so like his stats are gonna probably decrease,
Yeah.
and like we're gonna go into like the Eastern Conference standings, and I don't think they're gonna be like a top 5 team in the East. But I feel like you can't take away what he's accomplished so far, and I feel like that doesn't make him overrated just because he's getting older and he may not be able to lead them to the finals. Like you're probably right on that. I don't see them going to the finals again. But we said that the past 2 times they did go, so you never know. Um, But yeah, I don't think it makes him overrated. I think he's properly rated. I don't. He's not a top 15 player. He's maybe barely. He's probably not even a top 20 player, but I think he still deserves some credit.
In
Yeah.
the playoffs, in the playoffs, do y'all think he's top 20? He was
I
the healthiest
mean,
last year, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
But
I mean, now, like his age right now, like, okay, I guess I look at a player and I'm like, do they make their teammates better? Jimmy Butler played with a lot of talented teammates during his career. He played with Karl Anthony Towns. He played with a lot of those, young players on the Timberwolves, but he wasn't patient enough. He didn't have, he wasn't ready to lead them. Then he played with Embiid, and I'll talk about him here in a second. But he played with a lot of players on the Sixers. I mean, that are talented, and that team should have won a championship, and they lost to the Raptors, and Kawhi in that game. Obviously, that buzzer beater, and obviously he played with a lot of talented players with the Heat as well, and he's made it to the finals twice, and that's not a discreditment. But I see people talk about him like he's top 20, top 15, top 10. I just don't think that he is, especially now, kind of going into it. And so whenever people mention that Butler's still one of the best, like right now, the Heat cannot win a championship like as Butler with their best player. They have Bam, they have Hero, but I just think Butler, his play style right now, I don't think they'll win the championship, and for that reason, I think he's
so
overrated.
he gets discredited because he doesn't have a championship team. Is basically what you're saying.
I mean, he is the reason why, or he's part of the reason why they don't have a championship team. Like, if you put
How?
him just because he's not good enough, like to lead
What
them
are
to
you
the
talking? He carried an 8 seed to the finals.
like 2 years ago. I'm talking about now. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like,
Wait, hold on. And when they went to the in the bubble, what were they, like the 5th seed? What were they in the bubble?
I have no idea.
They
I
took
don't
the
know.
Lakers.
Yeah.
Took the Lakers to Game 6. The Nuggets were just way better than the Miami Heat were. It's not like he played bad in the finals.
Mhm.
Bro. I don't know,
To be
man.
fair about Butler when he was with Philadelphia, I think he wanted to stay, but remember they chose Tobias Harris over him, and
Yeah,
so
that's like their fault. And he's a
yeah.
great leader with the Heat. Those young guys love him. They really rally behind him. I don't know, shit. You're
Yeah.
kind of almost with
Yeah.
that one, but
If he would have
Um,
stayed in Philadelphia, like they probably could have had more success. Honestly, I kind of want him to stay there.
but like, if he's like top 15, top 10, like,
yeah.
wouldn't the
I'm not
Sixers?
saying he's top
Yeah,
20
yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah. I feel like the Sixers would have re-signed him. Like, they thought that he wasn't making as much of a difference. Like, if you could compare him to Tobias Harris, which the Sixers did, and they felt like Tobias Harris was a better fit, then I think that kind of shows that they believe that Butler was not
No,
what he seemed to be
no,
as well.
the Sixers, like the people who run the Sixers, they don't know what they're doing. That's what that means. Like, you know what I mean? They don't know
And
what
he
they're
was
Yeah,
only,
no,
doing.
you're right,
he was
you're right.
only
Yeah,
there for like half a year, I think, with Philly. I don't know why they didn't give him
yeah,
another chance.
We
I
have
think
we
they
have to
wanted,
go ahead,
yeah.
son.
Oh yeah, I think maybe it has something to do because like in Minnesota, like they said that he was kind of like a problem. He didn't really get along with everybody, so maybe that has something to do with
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, I just feel like the type of person he is, I feel like he's just too, like, he's too conceited. It seems to me. I don't know him, but he just seems like he's too. It's all about him. To me,
Hey,
that's what it seems like.
if you have ear tattoos, if you're conceited, hey, you're overrated. Like
He said,
All I'm saying, off the court, you were talking about this last week, Aaron. Off the
what?
field, off the court, that matters to, like, how you are as a player. It does. To me, it does. I mean,
you said LaMelo Ball
James,
was running red lights.
yo, hey, you should look it up. LaMelo Ball running red lights. That boy's a terrible driver, bro. What does that say about him on the court? He's not a good leader. He doesn't care about others. He just cares about himself.
We have to move on. We haven't even gotten to like the three
The
top
top three.
people.
Okay, all right. I'll say my top three. I'll give kind of a quick.
If that was your honorable mention, this is about to be wild. Like, this is about to be wild. Like,
All right. Top, and like I said, no order. So I got Kyle Kuzma. I got Mikal Bridges, and then I have Joel Embiid, probably the most overrated player in the league. I guess immediately, do y'all have any thoughts about that? And then I can respond. Y'all agree, disagree?
here's Sahil. You go first.
I agree with Bridges and Kuzma. With Embiid, I disagree. I think Embiid gets a lot of hate. Um, Regular season, he's amazing. Maybe he's a little overrated in the playoffs, but he's not. He's never 100% healthy at the end of the year. But he's an amazing player. He's an MVP. He's one of the best big men. I don't think he's overrated.
Yeah, I think the thing that sticks out to me the most, because I can make arguments for Mikal Bridges too, but I think the thing that sticks out to me the most with Embiid is that he's a top three big man in the NBA, right? That means he's like a top. That means he's a top five in the whole entire world, and I think that his stats match up. Do I agree with a lot of the awards that are given, like with the when Embiid won MVP? I think that maybe should have gone to Nikola Jokic. I think that people were just so tired of Nikola winning, you know. But I mean, he had the stats to like earn the MVP, right? So I mean, because he did have amazing stats that year. I think that he's been the number one on a playoff team consistently. And I mean, obviously, we can debate his playoff performance, but I think what it comes down to is, I think I have two questions for you. I should. My first question is that do you think was his playoff performance the biggest factor in him being overrated to you?
I would, yeah, honestly, yeah, I would say it's the biggest. It's not the only, but it's definitely the biggest because the playoffs are a whole different
Interesting.
beast. Yeah, a
And then,
whole
and I'm
different game.
okay, awesome. And then, do you think Embiid's top 10? That's just a yes or no. And I'm gonna get into my point.
Well, sorry, what was your question?
Do you think Joel Embiid is a top 10 player in the NBA? And then that can be a yes or no. And I'm gonna get
Yeah,
into my point and finish off.
top 10, yeah, top 10, yes.
Top 10, yeah. Okay. Um, I think that we kind of talked about how we kind of with Jimmy Butler about how I think like a lot of the things you have against Jimmy is just like his regular season performance, right? And I think that with Joel Embiid, there's not a lot to argue when it comes to the regular season. I think that um the Sixers they've kind of hovered in between like the number 3 and number 6 seed, and they're consistently in the playoffs, and he's the number 1, right? And I think with like the playoffs, it's kind of hard to like the playoffs are the most important thing, but in a way, it's kind of hard to diminish if, say, somebody's like overrated if they do have all of these regular season accolades and if they do have all the regular season stats. You know what I mean? And I think that not to kind of get into other sports, but just to kind of like wrap your mind around this, we've debated about Dak Prescott a lot. And I think a lot of my arguments are like, oh, well, Dak in the playoffs, this, in the playoffs, that. And your arguments back were, Aaron, look at regular season. Look at how he led the team, right? Look at the stats. So I guess just to see where your head's at, why don't you use that same those same arguments for Joel Embiid? Because it's very similar, honestly.
So yeah, so playoff performance for sure, but I also just like I think the play style that he has, like being so dependent on fouls, and also the fact that he's played with so much talent in his career already, and he still has anything to show for it. Joel Embiid has never made a conference finals, which is insane. As a former MVP, a number one pick, as consensus top 3 player in the league, you should have made a conference finals already.
I think he's
And
the only.
if
I was just gonna say. I think he's the only. I think he might be the only MVP to not make it to a conference finals or something like that.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
like yeah, or one of the few MVPs that have never made to a conference finals.
yeah.
Keep on going. Sorry.
So you asked me if he's top 10. Yeah, I think he's top 10 in the league. Obviously,
Okay.
he's a top 10 player in the league. But as best player in the league, as top 3, I just don't think so. Like
Wait, I'm
you
not saying he's top 3. I was saying like top 3, like big man. Like
Okay, no, no, no. I see a lot of like just national consensus in the media
yeah,
and stuff that he's top 3. Obviously, he won the MVP not this past season, but the season before,
yeah.
which I don't think he deserved at all. Um, and so I just don't think his play style being so dependent on fouls, kind of foul baiting, flailing to the ground, like kind of putting himself in an injury position. It's just kind of a turn off watching play back. I just don't think that's basketball. I don't think like a face of the league or like somebody that's trying to lead his team to a championship should be doing that. I mean, he's still a very talented player, one of the best big men in the league, but I do think he's overrated in the stance that he should not. I mean, he should not be regarded as one of the 3 or one of the 5. I don't think he's top 5. One of the top 5 best players, in the league. He's had Ben Simmons when Simmons was actually good, and they had a really good team around him. He had James Harden. He had Jimmy Butler. That was an amazing team that with that Jimmy Butler team, and they couldn't beat the Raptors. And Kawhi was on one that year, but still, Now he has Tyrese Maxey. Now he has Paul George, and we'll see, how that works out. But you and I think both agree that, I don't think they're going to get past the Celtics. And so I just think that, and he should be dominating the Celtics. If there was any player that can dominate the Celtics and take advantage of KP and the smaller size they have, it could be him. But I just don't think he's too dependent on fouls. He's not just when I was watching the Sixers playoff game against the Knicks. Whenever the Sixers needed a bucket, they would go to Maxey. They wouldn't go to Embiid. And then when they would go to Embiid, either he would try to foul bait or he would just miss a mid-range jumper. Maxey was the one making those clutch shots. He was the one making his own, bucket. And I just don't think, and I really saw for the first time, like, wow, Embiid, I don't think he can lead a team to a championship without somebody on, to his caliber next to him, which I guess you could say about a lot of players, but that's why I don't think he's best player or top 5 in the league.
I think with the foul baiting thing, I agree with you. I mean, we've been following the Olympics. I think he's really struggled so far because of the difference in rules. Because in the Olympics, you can stand in the paint, and I think he's really struggled with kind of that change and the defense, right? So I do agree with you. I think he does rely on fouls. For a big, strong dude, he does rely on fouls and flopping a lot. So I will say that. I think I guess this is where I'm at. I'm not a big Embiid fan, if I'm being honest with you. I don't like watching them play, kind of like you said. I think he flops a lot. Not a fan of his game, if I'm being honest with you. But I guess the pushback that me and Sahil have is because me and Sahil and you, like you said, have him top 10, right? I think the consensus is that he's a top 10 player, so he should be properly rated. I think you're coming from the standpoint that the world sees him as a top 3 NBA player, and that's why you're saying he's overrated. I don't think anybody sees him as a top 3 player except for maybe Sixers fans, because I think we have Nikola, I think we have Luca, and then you can insert probably Giannis, right? I don't think
Yeah.
anybody has Embiid over those 3 guys. I guess is why I'm kind of having a little bit of pushback. Sahil, what do you think?
Yeah, with Embiid, like I feel like his numbers just don't lie. I mean, he's always
Yeah.
going to give you like 35 a game. I know the way he gets it though isn't like really appealing for fans because it feels like maybe 10 or 12 of those are from the free throw line. I guess I'm looking at more as a numbers perspective though. Yeah, he's not overrated in terms of that. About the teammates though, I kind of find it interesting. He he did have good talent around him, but it's kind of hard to say Ben Simmons and Harden. Like Ben Simmons isn't really a scorer. Ben Simmons, all he did was set up Embiid, like in the post or make
Yeah.
plays for him.
That's a good point.
Harden, he choked in the playoffs with Philly. I think like 2 years in a row. He didn't
Yeah,
show up for him.
he was on your honorable mentions for overrated. Yeah.
Yeah. And when Harden got traded to the Clippers, Philadelphia still did amazing without him. Like Maxey just stepped up, and Embiid actually did better numbers wise. We'll see how it goes. Paul George is kind of known for choking in the playoffs, so it might be the same results again this year. But I feel like the talent wise, I don't know if I could really agree with that part. But yeah, I would say his style of play is probably what kind of turns fans off. He's not really fun to watch. But looking at his stats is pretty remarkable what he does on the floor.
I agree, and I think like with the free throw thing, I think for me, I love watching SGA play. But if you look at stats, he does shoot a lot from the free throw line, right? But he still
Yeah.
has to make the free throws. He still has to you still have to attack the basket to shoot the free throws. I think like so. I don't want to say that I hate like players with high free throw attempts per game. But I think what a shit's kind of saying is like it's just different with Embiid because it's like he's a big man. Like when it's a guard like kind of doing it, it kind of is like, oh, but when you see like a big man just like flopping to the ground, I mean, we talked about dominance earlier. It is really frustrating to watch. So I do agree with the should on that, but um I was just gonna say about we didn't really talk about the other two. Sahil, do you agree with the should when it comes to Kyle Kuzma and McCall Bridges?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick on it. Like with Mikal
Yeah.
Bridges, he used to be one of the most underrated, but now he's kind of overrated because like he
Is it the
gets talked about.
contract?
That yeah, mostly the trade. Like he's not worth what 5, 6 first round picks. Like they're acting like he's on
Oh
KD
yeah.
or LeBron's level. I think Nick's probably overpaid because they really wanted him. Villanova connection, all that, and also he is like probably one of the best 3-and-D players who can also give you like 20 a game if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's starting to. He went from like underrated to overrated now. He's starting to get talked about a lot, and I don't know. It's definitely putting more pressure on them, but you gotta give New York credit. They made their big move. Now it's time to put on the court and go for that championship. And then with Kuzma, that's a really good argument with Kuzma. Um, when he was with the Lakers, I thought he was overrated. And then when he went to the Wizards, he kind of, he's like their best player, but what has he really done on the Wizards? They've been a bad team for like 2, 3 years in a row. So you can make a case like he's not the number one guy, but he could be a number 3 guy or number 4 guy. I mean, I know the Mavericks were interested in getting him. He might have been a good fit here. But I do think Kuzma is a little overrated. I think he thinks he's like one of the best when really he's like a good role player at the end of the day.
Okay. Well, Oogie Woogie, it's your list. Do you have any closing statements?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's definitely why I also had them on my list for Mikal and Kyle Kuzma. I'll just never forget, like, Mikal Bridges was like touted as like the perfect defender for Luka, like in that Sun series, and Luka just obliterated him. Like ever since then, I was like, this boy is not all that. Like he's a good scorer. That's true. But he's a good scorer. But I just don't think he's like a lockdown defender or anything, which how people turn him out like a 2-way star. Like I just don't. I think he's a good role player. Kuzma is so annoying, bro. Like I just don't like him. Like, nah, bro, because like we were interested in trading for him, which thank God we didn't, because I don't think that would have been a good fit. And then he says, "Oh, I'd rather stay here and work towards a championship." Boy, you with the Washington Wizards, bro. Like you ain't like. But
yo,
I guess
these overrated lists are so personal.
Hey, I mean they're my list. But yeah, so I guess my closing statement. I kind of just thought about a question and we'll move on. Like,
sure.
Would y'all trade like Derek Lively for Embiid straight up, like right now? Like if Sixers called you, they're like, "Yo, we want Lively. We'll give you Embiid." Like, would y'all make that trade?
I mean, okay, that's kind of an
that's all I'm asking.
Stop.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. But no, that's all.
That's such an unfair question.
Y'all would say no. Y'all would say no.
Wait. Please time out for a second. Okay, first off, that's such an unfair question because Derek Lively is going into his second year, and so he has like all this potential. Embiid's like he's been in the league for a while, so why would you trade like a rookie that's proven himself and has like he has the potential to be better than Embiid, right? Why would you trade him for like an aging player? That doesn't make sense. And also, I was gonna talk about Mikal Bridges. He's never injured. He plays 82 games.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What do you think, Sahil?
No, I would not do that Embiid trade straight up. Like, I think his knees are messed up. He wouldn't be a good fit. Like, imagine if Luka did an alley-oop to Embiid. Like, on the floor.
Yo, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm. No. If Embiid was like truly like one of the best players in the league, like championship caliber player,
no one's saying he's top 3.
I feel like. Would you trade Lively for Giannis?
Well, yeah, but Giannis. Yeah. But Giannis is top 3 though.
You're right. I think I'm just online a lot and people talk about Embiid and there's like a lot of discourse around him. So in my head he's like being talked about all the time. Maybe that's not how it is like in real life, but
no, it's the obnoxious like Philly. Yeah, they're the same way with the Eagles.
I know, bro. Philly's gone Philly, bro. Yeah. Philly and Houston, they're canceled.
I know for real. All right, yo, I love that. Thank you for that list. Some really interesting picks. Okay, so moving on, and we're gonna stay with basketball. We talked about our Western Conference standings, and yo, things got super heated between me and Ashud. We were arguing about the Houston Rockets, the Kings, the Grizzlies. This Eastern Conference probably won't be as heated. I mean, we'll have to see, because I think that it's not as competitive as the West, right? A lot of these picks are going to be pretty straightforward, but I think what's going to be interesting is kind of seeing who we have in the seed 8 through seed 3 range. Okay, so does everybody have a list? Sahil, did you make a list?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. So should you want to do this kind of like last time? Like we kind of go like section by
In
section?
tiers. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so we'll start with the no play in, no playoff teams. We'll just do seeds 15 through 11th first. Okay, so for me, I have the Detroit Pistons at 15. I have the Washington Wizards at 14. I have the Brooklyn Nets at 13. I have the Charlotte Hornets at 12, and I have the Atlanta Hawks at 11. What do y'all have?
Sal, you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, I got 15. I got Brooklyn, 14 Washington, 13 Detroit, 12 I got Chicago, and 11 I got Charlotte.
Okay. I have the same teams as Sahil, almost in the same order. I have 15 Nets, 14 Wizards, 13 Hornets, 12 Pistons, and then 11 Chicago Bulls.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
So
I guess the difference was that you included the Hawks in this, Aaron, and I guess you have the Bulls making the play-in. Is that correct?
I do. Okay, so with the Hawks, we kind of I think we talked about them as one of our losers for the free agency. They lost Murray, who was their number two. They're number two on a team that did absolutely nothing these past 2 years. Okay. You know what I mean? So why give them a play in when they struggled? Did they even what seed did they finish as last year?
It's like 10, I think.
I think they were like 10 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so they lost their second best player, and we're expecting them to make the play-in?
Well, what about what they did before they had Dejounte Murray? They kind of have that same team.
Do they?
Maybe Murray was the problem.
And no, they were a terrible fit. I mean, on paper it looks good, but yeah, I don't think they like playing with each other.
Yeah.
So
But
like okay, so the Hawks, they have Trey Young, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know how y'all feel about Trey Young, but I mean, what are your feelings on him? You think he's the number one on a championship team?
Nah, he's not number
Okay.
one. I like him a lot though. I was really hoping
I
if
like
he
Trey
was.
Young too.
Yeah, he was on that same level like when him and Luca came in the
Yeah,
league. It
he
was
is.
like
He
Trae Young
was.
just fell off. I don't know what happened. If maybe Dejounte Murray kind of messed up his flow, and I think maybe the
Yeah.
Hawks kind of want to go back to like, hey, Trae Young is in charge of the backcourt. That's why I have Atlanta like at number 9. I think they have a chance to like get the play in.
I know,
Um,
but
yeah,
how? Like I saw stats where they're
yeah,
literally mid. Like they were like like there's been stretches of games like they'll do like the last 20 games and they're 10 and
yeah.
10, and then they lose their second best player. So I brought up Trey Young. Give me their second or third option.
They got
well, they
Isn't
got
that hey,
Jalen. They
isn't
got
that
no,
new
no.
guy? Like
oh yeah,
They got Jalen Johnson. He's gonna be a really good player. They got Bogdanovich, Oneke Okongu. I think that's how you say
yeah,
it.
Capella.
so these are consistent scores night in and night out.
I mean, they're better than the Bulls and the Pistons. Like, it's not a high bar, you know. Like, I feel like
This is
Trey
what
Young.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. I feel it's not high. They might be 500 maybe, and they'll make the play in. It's the East, you know what I mean? So I just think I feel like Trey Young is kind of disrespected. I feel like a lot of people like kind of clown on him for whatever reason, but bro, he can give you like 30 and 10 like consistently, and he's like probably the best passer in the league if I'm being honest,
Yeah, I
or one
love
of the
Trey
best
Young.
passers.
Yeah,
So I think he can carry, honestly, the Hawks, especially on the offensive end. Now, defensive, that's where it starts to question. But I think they have a lot of good players still, and who knows what if Alex Sarr can be, anything special too, or maybe he'll need a couple of years. But even if he gives them something, I'm sure they'll make the play in if everybody stays healthy.
Trey Young carried the team to the Eastern Conference, right? So
Yeah,
so I can't really, give disrespect like y'all are saying.
yeah.
We'll do playing teams next. So 10 through 7 for me. Number 10, I have the Toronto Raptors. Number 9, I have the Chicago Bulls. Number 8, I have the Miami Heat. And then number 7, I have the Orlando Magic. We talked about the Orlando Magic a little bit earlier. Obviously, Paulo Banchero is great, and I really like the direction the team's heading in. I just have them a little bit lower because I think that the Sixers got better, and I think they got healthy. So I know the Magic were number 6 seed last year, and the Sixers were number 7. Um, but I think this year the Sixers are probably better than the Magic. What do you think, Sahil?
Yeah, mine's pretty similar. I got 10 Toronto, 9 Atlanta, 8 Miami, 7 Orlando. I like Orlando a lot, but The only thing they really did differently was they got KCP, so they got more shooting. But
Yeah,
they also have young players, and young players are going to get better and better.
yeah.
But they still got like a lot to prove. I kind of like Toronto. I feel like Toronto's so good on paper, but I guess they just don't tend to win games. And then yeah, Miami didn't really do anything as far as like upgrades go, so I kind of had them in that 8th spot.
Yeah.
I had the same exact list as Sahil. So, but yeah, kind of for those same reasons, you have like an overrated player leading the Miami Heat. So I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. But yeah, I struggle with Orlando. I wanted to put them in a playoff spot, but I think they'll still make the playoffs. After the play-in. But I just don't think they're probably still a year away from really meshing together and really becoming like a powerhouse in the East. So yeah, the same list: Raptors 10, Hawks 9, Miami 8, and Orlando 7.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. And then for 6 through 1, I have the Indiana Pacers at 6. Yo, these guys were the runners up in the in-season tournament. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, yeah. So, yeah, they're really good in the regular season. I have the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that they're another team that I think is going to get healthy, and they have Giannis. They were one of my losers of the free agency, but I think that they have Giannis, so they'll be like a top 5 seed in the East for sure. I have the Sixers as at number 4. I'm sorry, I should like I think they're gonna be a number top 4 team this year. I have the Cleveland Cavaliers at 3. I think that they were a top 3 seed last year. Where did they finish? They finished at number 3, right?
Number 4, I think.
Yeah, number 4. Yeah, so I think they're gonna make that take that extra step, and I think Donovan Mitchell is returning. He's a great leader. They have a lot of young guys, and like I said, it's the East. Would they be at number 3 in the West? Probably not. Number 2, the New York Knicks. The one of our winners of free agency. They're the Villanova Knicks. You know what I mean? They have the youth, they have the talent, the team chemistry, and I think they'll give the Celtics problems. And number 1, the Boston Celtics. I mean, they same team as last year. They have 3 dudes on the USA men's team. They have four guys who can play both ends of the floor. They have an amazing bench. It's really, yeah, it's still the Celtics. What do you think, Saho?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. 6, I got Indiana. I think I think they may have hit their peak this past season, so I think they might take a little step back. I think maybe even Orlando could take the spot. Number 5, I got Cleveland. 4, I got Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee would be better. I think Chris Middleton's the key. He's going to be 100% healthy. So I'm betting on that. I got Philly at 3, number 2, New York, and number 1, Boston.
Oh, okay. Oh, what
Yeah,
about you?
no, yeah, I had something similar, but I think we have kind of those different teams. So 6, I have Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not as high on them as you are, Aaron. I just it's a weird makeup of the team. It seems like there's some animosity towards Jaron Allen as well. A lot of people are upset about him. They just fired Bickerstaff. I don't know who they hired. I forget who they
Have
hired.
Kenny Atkinson. He's a pretty good
Oh,
coach.
okay, yeah, yeah. So we'll see how he does, but it's just a weird makeup. They have the 2 bigs. They got Mobley and Allen. I just don't think that's the best fit. So I have them at 6. They'll still be pretty solid. 5, I have Indiana Pacers. I also think they might have hit their peak, but I think they'll still be really good offensively. And we know Carlisle is a really good coach. 4, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. I have them at 4 just because they have a lot of new pieces. It's going to take a while to get Paul George integrated. We'll see how the fit is between Maxey, George, and Embiid. On paper, it does seem like an amazing fit. If Paul George stays healthy and he does what he can do, especially in the regular season. But I think there'll be some injury management and some load management here and there. So I think they'll be the 4 seed. And they get the Pacers the first round, so it won't be a terrible matchup. 3, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they'll come back with a vengeance. I think Giannis will do better. I really like the Gary Trent signing with them. I think Damian Lillard will have a better kind of repertoire with Giannis as well this year. If he really wants to make the top 75 list, honestly. And then I have the New York Knicks number 2, Nova Knicks. I'm really excited to see what Brunson does this year with that all that talent on their team. And then number 1, Boston Celtics, freaking super team over there, bro.
All right, let me push back a little bit. Okay, so do I think the Cavs are the 3rd best team in the East? No, again, this is regular season, right? All of these teams are going to struggle to win 50 games of that. They'll probably all be kind of in the 40 to 49 range, right? Like they were last year. I think that the Cavs have really young pieces that performed well last year. They won 48 games. Donovan Mitchell's coming back, like I said. I think that you bring up Mobley and Allen. Well, they had Mobley and Allen last year. They won 48 games, right? And so we'll have to see kind of if Atkinson can kind of control maybe some of any of the locker room stuff. And I think that he probably will be able to because, like Sahil said, he's a great coach. And I think that he'll really help them. I look at the. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I look at the Bucks and we have them as losers on our free agency, right? I think that they have players who are actually aging. I don't know how like young they necessarily are. I look at the Cavs, they have ascending, right? And I think with the Bucks, we have a lot of role players and bench players that are descending. And also with Doc Rivers, obviously Doc Rivers is a champion, but you can't take away the fact that he came in. The Bucks were the number 1 seed, I believe, right? Or were they number 1 or number 2? Maybe they were number 2, but he came in and they fell in the standings. So I'm not saying that's like all on him, but the fact is that they were in a great place. They replaced their coach with Doc Rivers and then they fell. So is Doc Rivers controlling the locker room issues of the Bucks? Because you bring up the locker room stuff with the Cavs, the Bucks locker room stuff was worse, and that's why they got rid of their coach. So, but what were you gonna say, Ashad?
I guess. Wait, so you had the Bucks 5th?
I had the Bucks 5th, and I have the Sixers. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I have the Sixers at 4, and then I have the Cavs at 3.
Okay, yeah, I think the Cavs are just a little too high, like top 3 seed in the East.
They were number 4 last year.
Yeah, and 3 is higher than that. So yeah, like
no, but
I think it's a little too high. No, you're right.
Hear this point though, and I just want to see what you think. This is the central point that I'm trying to make. The Cavs were number 4, the Bucks were number 3, right? The Cavs have ascending young players, okay? And one of your main arguments for the Cavs was locker room stuff, right? The Bucks have descending role players and bench, and they have worse locker room stuff. So I'm trying to understand from your side, how are the Bucks going to have a better, have more wins than the Cavs, I guess is where I'm coming from.
I mean, I guess
what's your argument for the Bucks?
I mean, I guess you're saying that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess you're saying that the Cavs are like younger, but I think that can be kind of a bad thing where they don't have as much experience. Jared Allen literally said the lights were too bright for him in the playoffs. Like, you really want that to be your starting center? Like
regular season list. This is regular season again.
But that's all I'm gonna say. But my argument for the Bucks is 2 words: Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think this will be kind of his revenge year. I think he'll come back. I feel like a lot of people kind of dismissed him last year. I think he was like the only player ever to average 30, 10, and 5 on 60% shooting, and nobody even regarded him as the MVP. I think you're looking at the experience as a negative or the age as a negative, but I think for the Bucks, I think it will really help them. Going from Jrue Holiday to Damian Lillard was a big change, and I think last year was kind of the feeling out year. I think this year is really where they can dominate in the regular season. And I still think they got some good pieces. They still have Middleton. Like I said, they signed Gary Trent. They have Jay Crowder, I believe, is still with them.
They got Taurean Prince. That's a good sign.
Yeah, Taurean Prince. And don't they have what's his face? Yeah. And then the coach from the Lakers. He's an assistant coach now with the Bucks. Yeah. No. I'm blanking on who coached the Lakers last year. Like
Ham. Oh, hey,
yeah, Ham. Yeah. No, I'm just. That's good experience. I feel like it's better than the Cavs, and they're gonna have a brand new coach, a brand new system. It might take them a while to get acclimated. I don't know. Like, besides Mitchell, like, who do you want to give the ball to at the end of the who can give you a bucket? I guess maybe Garland, but
they got Garland, they got Strus, they got some guys that can score and pretty consistently. Honestly, hey, you laugh. Strus did hit that. Hey,
that's why I'm laughing. Like that was.
He hit that long range against the Mavs. Hey,
he sure did. Yeah.
Sahil, let's get you into this. Sorry, me and should have kind of like throwing bows right now. where did you have the Cavs and where did you have the Bucks?
Yeah, I had the Bucks at 4 and the Cavs at 5. I kind of have
Yeah.
them in the same tier. The Cavs are a good regular season team, but I don't really see them being a threat in the playoffs. Like I
I
saw them last year in the playoffs. They're pretty hard to watch at
No, but
times.
I totally agree with you. I think the Bucks are a better team than the Cavs, but this is again
Yeah,
a regular season list. If we were doing like who do I think's the best, I'd have the Bucks higher. I think the Bucks have the higher ceiling in the playoffs than the Cavs. But again, this
right.
is regular season. There was a lot of drama last year with them. And usually these young, kind of like athletic, kind of ascending teams, they do well in the regular season. And then kind of like I should said, the lights do maybe sometimes get too bright, when it
Yeah,
comes to the playoffs. So yeah, no, I don't want y'all to think I think the Cavs are better than the Bucks. I'm not necessarily
yeah,
saying that. Just think regular season wise, I think they'll be in that top three range. But
yeah. I probably
um,
I probably rank the Bucks higher just because of their experience. They have more winning players on their team, but
okay,
honestly, they might finish with the same record.
yeah, maybe. So where do you have the Sixers, Sahil?
I had them at 3.
So we all have the Sixers top four. So y'all think that the Sixers? How do y'all feel about the Sixers? Because after the Paul George thing, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the Sixers are right there with the Knicks and the Celtics." Well, and this is kind of going away from the regular season. Now we're kind of talking about championship, right? Winning a championship. Do you think the Sixers are on that level with the Knicks and Celtics, or no?
I think. I mean, honestly, I think the Knicks aren't even on the level of the Celtics. So I think you have the
Yeah.
Celtics like up here. I think they're on a level of their own. And I do think the Sixers are. I mean, that was a 7 game series, right, with the Sixers and the Knicks this past playoffs. And so I think they're definitely in the same tier. But I think the Celtics are like a tier of their own. So I don't think you can really classify the Knicks or the Sixers with the Celtics. I just think, man, they're just such a good team. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But like I said, on paper, man, like that's a great fit for the Sixers. Paul George, 2-way forward, can score, can defend, like a better Tobias Harris, right? Like that can actually like do good. But like you said, it all comes down to the playoffs. You got like two playoff chokers on the same team, and you're at Tyrese Maxey with them. So we'll see how that goes, but I think in the regular season, I think they'll be really cold, man. Like obviously, I think they'll all pop off. But I think the Celtics are just on a different tier than the Knicks and the Sixers. What do you think
Okay.
about that, Sahil?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Celtics are like the heavy favorites. Yeah, the Knicks and the Sixers, I'll put them in one tier. I'm probably going to take the Knicks over Sixers just because the way the Knicks play, I just feel like they want it more every time they play in the playoffs. And like you mentioned, Sixers, they have a lot to prove. They're not. It's probably not going to be pretty at first. I think they'll have like a strong finish. That's why I have them in the top 3. But it's probably going to take a lot of adjusting with Paul George getting in, and we don't even know if Embiid's 100% healthy. He doesn't really look healthy right now. But yeah, I probably got them in the same tier, Sixers and Knicks.
It's a good point. Okay, for our final topic of the night, we're gonna sprinkle in a little bit of NFL. It's been pretty NBA dominant, basketball dominant. We have Brandon Aiyuk requesting a trade from the 49ers. And then we have Ceedee Lamb, who's planning to hold out and not go to practice, right? Because he wants a big contract, a big payday. Um, I guess my question to y'all is, what's the best case scenario for these players? Should they be on a different team? Should they get paid? Like, what should the teams and these players do? What's the best case scenario? And just what are your thoughts on this situation? Sahel, we can start with you. We'll start.
Yeah,
Let's just so we're not like crossing over. Let's start with Brandon Ayuk. Brandon
yeah,
Ayuk. What's best case scenario for him? What's best case scenario for the 49ers? What do you think of this situation? Do you think that
yeah.
do you think Ayuk's kind of in the right or do you think he's in the wrong? Like
How much money is he requesting? Do y'all know?
from I don't know if it's true from what I've seen. He wants to be high paid. I think top five, I think, right? I can look it up
Yeah,
real quick.
I would say with Aiyuk, like they've been negotiating since March, so it's kind of like frustrating on his side that nothing has gotten done. He's even been open about the negotiation process, and it kind of sounds like he's not really being treated fairly. He does deserve to get paid. He took a big leap this past year. He was huge in the playoffs for them. I don't know if he's not a top five. I don't think he should get paid top five. I'm not really sure what he's requesting, but hopefully they can get a deal done. I do get it though from the 49ers standpoint. They're already paying Kittle top money at his position. They're paying Debo big money. That's like they're supposed to be the wide receiver one. They're paying McCaffrey top money, and they also got to give Brock Purdy some money too coming up, later in the season. So I kind of get it from their standpoint. I feel like best scenario, I think John Lynch will probably work it out, but for Aiyuk, it's probably best if he gets straight to another team. Because I think that's
Can,
what he wants.
can I ask you something really quick?
Mhm.
And then I want to get Shid's thoughts. Do you think Aiyuk, because statistically, like he was the number one, do you think he's their number one receiver?
I would say so. Yeah, I'd rather have Aiyuk than Debo.
Okay. Shid, what do you think? Oh, and by the way, just so we're all on the same page, he wants like 26 million a year. Go ahead, Shid.
So I think it's a tough situation, but I just feel like I don't think the 49ers should pay him like top five money. Like 26 million a year is a lot, especially for the amount of weapons they have already. They have McCaffrey, they have Kittle, they have Debo. And I just feel like in that system, I think they could replace Aiyuk easily for much cheaper. I think they have some talented receivers that, like Jennings, I believe, and some other receivers that I think could help fill the void for him. Aiyuk is a good receiver. I don't think he's top 10. I don't know if he's top 15. Like I would have to make a list of like top 10, top 15. Um, and so I definitely think the 49ers are on the right, and I think they could get a pretty good package in return if they do trade him. I don't think Aiyuk is worth all of that, maybe 15 to 20 million a year. I know he is their number one receiver per se, but I think I would rather I would disagree from Sahil, but I think I would rather have Debo. I just think Debo is more. He can just do so much more. He's more versatile, and I mean, Aiyuk is a good receiver, but I just don't think he's anything like irreplaceable.
Um, I think this is where my head's at. So I had Aiyuk on my fantasy football team, right? So I followed him a lot, and if you look at stats, I think where I'm coming from with the whole Aiyuk Debo Samuel thing, I think Debo Samuel is a great receiver slash like running back type situation. He's a hybrid, right? If we're talking about like just solid number one wide receiver, the stats say that they look for and they throw to Aiyuk the most, right? And Aiyuk's the one that is the big port who takes a big part out of the passing game. And in clutch situations, again, because I followed him on my fantasy football team, they were looking for Aiyuk in those final stretches. So I think, but here's the thing though. I think Ayuk's talented. I think again, in my opinion, I think he's the number one on the team. There's so many good wide receivers now that coming out of the draft and just in general that it's starting to kind of become like the running back market where you'd rather just replace through the draft than pay the money. You know what I mean? And it's sad that it's like that, but I mean, we look at some of these young guys who got drafted last year and they're already making big play. Like I'm trying to think. Well, this is maybe a few years ago, but I remember when Jamar Chase was a rookie, right? And when he was a sophomore, he was doing making top five, having top five. He looked like he was top five some games and throughout the season, right? And obviously, we'd probably put him in the high in in our top 10 list for wide receivers. So I guess that's just where my head's at, is that it's so easy to replace guys that I think a lot of these franchises are like, why pay when I can replace and it's cheaper because I have him on a rookie contract. And I also think, and you have Debo Samuel, like I should mention, Debo Samuel can be a number one, you know, and he's proven that he was the number one guy kind of before Ayuk started taking a lot of the looks. And also I think that Ayuk would probably be best fit from the way that he's talking is if he does have his own thing going on to where like a lot of people are throwing around the Commanders. I think that if he goes to the Commanders, he's getting a lot of throws, right? Because I mean, I know they have like Terry McLaurin and some of these other guys, but they're more like kind of like route runners. I see Brandon Ayuk kind of as that big, kind of like down the field threat. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but so I think that there's so many, and not even maybe if he wants like full like all of the looks, he doesn't even have to go to the Niners. You can go to like I'm trying like the Broncos or somebody like that, right? So I guess that's just where my head's at. I don't know. I think 26 million is a lot, especially because you already have a wide receiver like Debo Samuel to where, or it, like Sahil said, it's easy to replace. Why pay that money? It's kind of where my head's at. Do y'all agree?
Yeah,
That's a good. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, no, I agree for sure. I mean, it's just like, do we really think the 49ers are going to fall off because they don't have Brandon Ayuk? Like, I don't think so. I think their system is better than the player.
Yes.
I
Because
do think, yeah,
look at Brock Purdy. Everybody was like, "Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo's leaving," but the
yeah.
system's so good, they replaced him with Brock Purdy, and it just keeps on running like a well-oiled machine. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think Ayuk realizes that, which is why he requested the trade. He probably wants to prove himself, and I do think it's going to be helpful for him to go out and do that and prove that he's one of the best receivers in the league. But until we see that, and I'm sure there is a team that's willing to pay him that money that needs a receiver. I think I saw some rumors about the Jaguars, which would be a good fit. I think with Trevor Lawrence, that'd be pretty cool with Calvin Ridley on the other side. Like you said, some teams that need a receiver like the Broncos, the Commanders, that would be a good fit. But yeah, I think what I want to see is a trade, just so the 49ers can maybe fall off a little bit. But I don't think they will, with or without Ayuk. And I think the 49ers know that, which is why they don't want to pay him that money.
Sahil, what do you think? And then we'll move on to CD.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, in a way, he is kind of replaceable. They're probably still going to be a good team even if they don't bring him back. I don't really know if they have like a. I don't know. I feel like Debo, he's not your typical wide receiver though. I feel like you can do some things that Debo
Yeah.
can, but I don't think that's going to make a big difference. Like they're already such a great team. Even when Aiyuk wasn't at his greatest, they were already like a Super Bowl team. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and they
good point. And you can't pay everybody. I mean, like I said, they got to pay Purdy now. And even Trent Williams, like he's like I guess one of the best left tackles. He's also asking for his money. It's a tough job as a GM. So like, why give I guess another wide receiver big money when you're already giving Debo McCaffrey, who's also a good receiver, Kittle money too.
well, I think like just to kind of see where your head's at, Sahil, and I think this is kind of where it should's coming from. Say you have, and it should, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Say if you have Kittle, Debo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk, and you can keep two and cut one, who are you cutting?
It's a good question. You got to keep Kittle.
Yeah,
Really, it's just between Debo and Aiyuk.
because I
Yeah,
I think I agree with you if you're saying like when it comes to the receiving thing,
yeah,
but Debo Samuel can just do
more things.
things
Yeah,
that you can't. Yeah,
yeah, and it's better for the system too. Like Kyle Shanahan can do more with Debo than he can with Aiyuk.
yeah. So I think we're kind of all on the same page. I think the best thing is that they just go ahead with the split. So maybe goes to a team where he's the first sure number one option, gets a lot of looks, and then the Niners get to save money and then look for a second option elsewhere. Okay, last one, and we're gonna go ahead and close off. This one's gonna hit really personal and close to home because we're all Cowboys fans. And we've talked about the turmoil and all the chaos that's kind of going on with the Cowboys. And the season hasn't even started yet. Um, what should we do? Should we pay Ceedee Lamb? Like, what are y'all thinking?
Yeah, of course we need to pay CD Lamb, and we
Yeah.
need to pay Micah, and I think we should pay Dak as well. But the Cowboys are just so cheap, bro. Like it's so frustrating being a Cowboys fan. This happens every like. When's the last time that we re-signed a player? Like before, I don't know. Like I feel like we resign like our offensive linemen and those things, but I feel like we give some our star like players a hard time sometimes, just because we're so cheap and we just don't want to pay what they're worth. Like Ceedee Lamb does deserve to be paid like one of the highest wide receivers in the market, and if we don't, who do we have? We have Brandon Cooks, like we have like it's just Ceedee
We
has all the leverage. You know
we
what I
could
mean?
use Brandon Ayuk, honestly.
Honestly, yeah. And so obviously CD's bro, he improved every year. Last year he popped off. I had CD my first 2 years of in fantasy football, his first 2 years, and last year was the year he really popped off though.
I like how we always
But
like go back to
I know,
fantasy.
I know, I know, yeah. But he's one of the best receivers in the league. I mean, definitely, I would say top five for sure. And I think he deserves to be paid like one. And Mike, we talked about him before, but he's one of the best defensive ends, rushers in the league as well. So they deserve to be paid like it, and we just can't be so cheap. The whole Cowboys philosophy is that we don't sign free agents because we're resigning all of our own players, and then when it's time to resign all of our own players, we don't even do that. Like, who are we signing? You know, it's like Jerry Jones keeping all this money for himself, shipping it back to Arkansas or something. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but
Well,
but yeah.
So we're gonna get you like in on this in just a second. So let me ask you something really quick, because we debated about Dak Prescott before, right? And you brought up how Dak deserves to get paid. All these guys deserve to get paid. So I gave Sahil like 3 players and asked him which one he would cut. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the same question. So we got Michael Parsons, and we have Ceedee Lamb, and we have Dak Prescott. Which 2 are you keeping? Which one are you cutting? Because all of them are due to get paid.
I guess I would have to, out of those 3, I would have to cut Dak, just because I think the way that the NFL is going, I think there is value in restarting with the first round quarterback with his, you know, salary, and then building around him as, you know, his salary is low. And I think it sounds weird, but it might be a little bit tougher to replace what Micah and Ceedee can do, like top 3 players at their position. While Dak really, you know, we can argue if he's really top 5 or top 3 or top 10, you know. And I mean, like you said, the playoff performances haven't been the best, and so I love Dak with all my heart. But I mean, if it was out of those 3, I think we'd have to cut Dak.
Yeah, and that means he's not top 10 quarterback in the league, because if you're willing to like cut him and replace him, you would never cut and replace a top 10 quarterback, yo. And I think that's just kind of where my head's at. I think that Dak
is still top 10, bro.
You just said you'd be better to replace, so you would cut and replace a top 10 quarterback? Doesn't even sound right.
You would cut Ceedee, who's a top 5 receiver, and Micah, who's a top 5 rusher.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I would keep Micah and Ceedee.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like that could be a top 10. Micah's top 5 like rusher, and Ceedee's top 5 wide receiver. So that's why I would say that. Yeah.
You're saying like in comparison to those guys.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I think I guess what I'm trying to say is that who are we prioritizing when it comes to these contract negotiations, right? Because Jerry Jones has already talked about Dak's contract, and he said that, he's not getting the Jordan Love type contract. He said that, okay? And he is on the last year of his deal, and we're thinking about moving on from him. So I guess where I'm coming from is, if he was top 10, there's no question that he's getting paid at the end of this. It's weird that we're doing this like 1 year, like to see what he does. But you don't really do that with top 10 players.
Go back to our earlier argument about Joel Embiid. I mean, like, are you saying that because he was a top. He finished second in MVP voting last year. Like, I mean, like, he was a good quarterback in the regular season, to be fair, last year. I think if you make a list of all the quarterbacks, I don't think there's 10 people better than Dak Prescott. And remember, he knows what he's doing. He's not a scrub at quarterback. Like, he's a good quarterback. But for what the Cowboys need, maybe it's just better that we restart and he gets traded to another team, or he signs with another team, as opposed to Micah or Ceedee leaving.
In your argument, and I want to get Sahil's thoughts on the Ceedee thing, so maybe we can talk about this next pod. In your argument, you're comparing, like, you're using Embiid to argue Dak. If you're doing that, that just kind of proves my point, because you said Embiid's overrated. Do you think Dak's overrated?
I mean, he's the most talked about quarterback in the league. Okay. I mean, but I don't think people ever call him the best player in the league. Unlike some people call Embiid the best player in the league, and Dak's never won MVP. He did finish second, but he's never won MVP.
I know, but let me say this, and we have to get Sahil's thoughts. I'm sorry, Sahil. The Dak thing's like brings tension to the podcast. Let me say this. If I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes, I'm never going to mention Joel Embiid's name. Okay? And we're talking about Dak, and we're talking about Joel Embiid. We're talking about James Harden.
What?
I'm
just because your main. Okay, answer this, Aaron, and then we're going to settle. Sure. Is your main problem with Dak his playoff performances?
I think that. Well,
yes or no. So yes or no question.
Oh my gosh! Wait, hold on a second.
Give me your yes or no.
Is it my number? Is it my number one? Wait, can I? Is it a yes or no?
Yes, it's a yes or no.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, but that's what I'm saying. But I'm talking about in the regular season. You don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the regular season?
He's playing against the Giants, the Commanders, and throwing like 5 touchdowns on like.
That's a good point.
You know what I need to do? I need to subtract those games where he's going against these sorry like defenses, and then see what we're really, because we argued Jared Goff. Jared Goff's going against the Packers, the Vikings. You know what I mean? His division is super. And then you're like, and their stats are similar, and you're like, oh look, their stats are still similar. But then Jared Goff, he's going to like championships. He's going to conference finals. Dak's not. You even talked about, you said Dak looks scared in the pocket in the playoffs, and he's in an easy division. And you just said, oh, I mean, if I had those options, I would think about replacing Dak with a younger quarterback. Yeah, I know. That's what we should do. That's what you do with people who aren't top 10 quarterbacks.
But you're using like you asked us Ceedee, Michael, or Dak, okay, and I said, but no, listen, I'm just going back, and I'm gonna get Sahil. You asked us Ceedee, Michael, or Dak. We said we all agreed that we choose Ceedee and Micah, and then you're like, yeah, but if he was a top 10 quarterback, he wouldn't be like that. Like yes, two things can be true. Two things can be true. Dak is pushing like I think he's like 32 or 33. Like he's getting older. He's getting more injury prone. I think if this was the time to restart, this is the time to restart. That doesn't mean Dak is a bad quarterback. No, yeah,
top 10 quarterbacks are going to be top 2 on their team, man. Patrick Mahomes is the best player on his team. Lamar Jackson's top 2 on his team. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that he's not even like there's players on his team that are better and that carry the team more than he does. You even said that too. You said that they do things to carry the team more. I guess is my argument. I'm looking at like quarterbacks that I think are top 10 are quarterbacks that you cannot lose. Like if you lose a Lamar Jackson, if you lose a Josh Allen, you lose a Joe Burrow, you lose a Patrick Mahomes, those teams are going to be worse. I feel like if you get a rookie and then replace Dak Prescott, we're going to be okay. We're going to be in the same position. Hey, we're going to get knocked down the first round probably, but hey, we're still in the same position as we are with Dak, I guess is my point.
Sal, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, sorry, Sahil. We kind of like got you out of that.
What was the question?
Okay, listen. We started with Ceedee. Gosh, we're just throwing so much at you. Okay, listen, just to kind of follow this. What do you think about the Ceedee thing, and what do you think we should do? And then we got into Dak. What do you think about Dak? Do you think that he's top 10? Do you think he deserves to be prioritized in the contract talks?
Yeah, so Ceedee should be the top priority. Okay. He's one of the best receivers in the game. Our offense is really nothing without him. So you definitely got to pay him. He does deserve it too. He's improved each season. With Parsons, I think we could wait on him, right? Like, do we have to get
him? Because he got drafted the year after, so I think we have one more year.
He's only played like 3 years, so I feel like we can wait on Micah. With Dak, it's so hard, man. Like, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, if any team could have him, they would grab him. But
yeah, for sure.
What has he done these past 3 years? Like, he's only won one playoff game.
Thank you. Yes.
Like, he gets us to the playoffs, but like Aaron says, like he
hits that Joel Embiid, like he flops. Yeah,
he's beating like a bunch of mediocre teams. Like I just remember him playing really good against the Panthers, the Commanders, the Giants. Like even the Eagles, they weren't even that good towards the end. It's just really frustrating to watch. I don't blame it all on him though. I think the coaching side is also a reason for it. Yeah. But it's gonna be hard to see Dak get a huge. Because they're saying he might get the biggest contract right now. He's going to get more than 2 in Love. It's going to be hard to see that headline. And because you're going to think as a fan, like, wait, what has he actually done to earn that contract? Like, he's being really good teams, but when it comes to the playoffs, he hasn't really stepped up like a superstar would. So
I guess where we would defer, Aaron, really quickly, if I could say, I think where we defer is like I would rather take the chance of us with Dak Prescott and paying him $60 million per year. And knowing that we have a good quarterback. Listen. Is Dak Prescott a good quarterback, Aaron? Yes or no?
Is he good?
Yeah, is he good?
Oh, I think he's.
Yeah. So
I think Brock Purdy's good.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I would rather take the chance of us winning 10 to 12 games every year with Dak Prescott and just taking the chance that he's figured it out in the playoffs. I don't want to restart, try to throw darts in the draft, tank, maybe get a quarterback as good as Dak Prescott. Maybe get a quarterback that's better than Dak Prescott. But there's a big chance that we'll be in purgatory for like 5, 7, 10 years, and we just never find that. It's a big chance. We got lucky.
Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft, and Dak has never beaten Brock Purdy. So there's quarterbacks.
Bro, you're comparing quarterbacks to teams. You were just saying that if he's not the top 2 best player on the team, then he's not in the top 10 as quarterbacks. You can't compare Dak to Brock Purdy because if Dak was in Brock Purdy's shoes, Dak would have a ring by now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
is it okay if I can actually though? Because who has been Brock Purdy off the top of my head? Lamar Jackson,
okay? 2-time MVP.
Right, but that's my point. Because let me ask Sahil this. So, do you do you agree with me when I say that to be a top 10 quarterback, you have to be the you have to be a top 2 player on the team. You have to be the one that's making the biggest difference in the games, right? So, like, I guess like where I'm coming from is Dak in a top 10 level at this point? Because I'm bringing up names: Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Why pay a guy $60 million if he can't by himself win a game? I've seen games where Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow, their offensive line's not doing anything, defense isn't doing anything, running game's not doing anything. And what do? They carry the team to the win. What do you think about
that? Dak has done that, not in the playoffs, but he's done that in the regular season.
That's the point. I'm talking about the playoffs. Sahil, please, what do you think about that?
Yeah, he's just not a playoff quarterback. So like it's hard to pay him elite money if he's not gonna do well in the playoffs. But that's the thing with the Shoots point. Like, who are you gonna find that's better than Dak right now? Like, your chances of finding someone better than Dak is pretty low. So you're kind of forced to give him that contract, or you just let him walk away in free agency.
I guess my question, Aaron, like, are you okay with us being irrelevant for 3 years while we wait for a quarterback to get drafted, develop, maybe, just maybe turn into somebody as good as Dak Prescott while we wait Ceedee's prime, Micah's prime? I don't even know who we have as running back right now, but like, I think my thing is that I think the main problem behind the Cowboys is the front office. I don't think it's Dak. I don't think it's the coaching. I think it's the front office. And I think if you give Dak with the help that he needs, I think he'll be able to win a championship one day. Let's remember who does not have a championship so far. Josh Allen does not have a championship. Lamar Jackson does not have a Lamar Jackson does not have a championship.
Went to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson.
Joe Burrow. I mean, you can. I mean, obviously. And do you think Dak is better than Tua?
Well, probably Tua.
Okay, so, and then Tua just got.
But Tua didn't make it to the well, yeah, but that's just the GM. That's just the GMs being like, because I don't know if Tua should have, because Tua won a playoff game.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying, Aaron. Like, are you okay with potentially you want to tank, like you're ready to restart?
Yes, because it gets us quicker to a Super Bowl. I'm starting to get to the point.
It's not gonna get, dude.
Yes, it is, because I'm starting to get to the point where I don't think we can win a Super Bowl with Dak, and he's shown in the playoffs that he's not capable of carrying us when things get hard. Because I brought up a whole bunch of situations, a whole bunch of different quarterbacks where if everything's going wrong, they're still going to figure out a way to win the game. And Dak is one of those type of quarterbacks where everything has to be going right for him to kind of get us out of a tough situation. And that's not what's going to happen all the time in the playoffs, man. And I think he's a great leader, a great person. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I think he's a good quarterback. I just think that 3 years, we get a new quarterback, train him, work with them, and it doesn't even have to be 3 years. Again, I keep on bringing up Brock Purdy. I keep on bringing up I know Joe Burrow is a high draft pick, but Joe Burrow, like he got to the Super Bowl in his second year. Wait, hold on. Wait, really quick. And I think that we'll be closer to a quarterback or closer to a championship if we move on from Dak, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. And we talked about it on another podcast. I remember, and I bring this up a lot, the Eagles with what's his name, Chip Kelly. They had amazing players, right? They had a pretty solid kind of quarterback. They blew up the whole team, and then they won the Super Bowl a few years later with Nick Foles. It's a strategy that works.
So you don't want to re-sign Micah and CD. You want to trade them away, and you want to blow up the whole team.
You don't have to do that because I remember that the Denver
Because we're gonna
Broncos.
be too good. We're gonna be too good if we still have CD and Mike.
I remember the Denver Broncos. They struggled for years. They had Von Miller. They had Demarius Thomas. They added an aging Peyton Mahomes, aging Peyton Manning, and they won a Super Bowl. So I think that we can keep the team in place. And I hate to keep on like talking about like the Brock Purdy thing, but I think that like you can take a rookie quarterback that's still learning, put him on a really good team, and they're still going to be able to do okay. Because let me tell you this, that happened kind of with Dak. Tony Romo went down, he got injured. We got a really solid rookie in Dak. I'm not going to say he's a bad quarterback. I don't think that. But we got a really solid quarterback with Dak, right? And we went 13-3, and we were really successful. We were the number one seed in the NFC that year. So I think that just because we get a rookie quarterback that's young doesn't mean that, oh, we're just giving up for the next 5 years. You can compete with a young quarterback.
But it's risky. You can get some. I mean, use Brock Purdy as an example, but I don't think that's a good example as all because he's in the best system in the league. But listen.
Okay.
All right, it's risky because
I used
you
Joe
can.
Burrow too, but keep on
Yeah,
going.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and you have these quarterbacks. You could also end up with a Zach Wilson, and you could end up with the Jets who haven't done anything in the past few years because they keep tanking and tanking. They try to get these quarterbacks like Zach and like these other players, and then they just end up in quarterback purgatory. Now, what did they have to do? They traded Zach Wilson away. All those years were wasted. They got Aaron Rodgers. What happens to Aaron Rodgers? He gets hurt on the first drive of the season and he's out for the year, and they suck for another year. And they're gonna, who knows how it'll be this year? But it can be an endless cycle. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it's not. What I'm saying is, me personally, I would rather take the consistency of knowing that we're gonna be good. We'll be always, we'll be in the playoffs, so we'll win double digit games every year, and maybe just maybe that will be the year where we figure it out in the playoffs and we can win the championship. I think that's the quicker way, and that's the risk I would take. That's me.
Let me make 2 points. And I want to get both of y'all's thoughts on this. And then we have to close off because we went way over time. So your whole argument is basically, if maybe I'm wrong, and I want both of y'all to tell me if I'm wrong, is we should pay Dak out of fear, pretty much, because fear of not finding a quarterback when there's a lot of teams that took that risk and they made Super Bowl runs. And also, our backup quarterback, what's his name, Sahil?
Trey Lance?
No, not him. The other one.
Cooper Rush?
Cooper Rush went 4-1 with the team we have. Do you think Cooper Rush's an elite quarterback? Or Cooper Rush is an elite quarterback? He went 4-1 with the team that we have. Literally, Dak went down and we just put in just a random quarterback and we were still winning. What do you think about that?
I guess it's all you, bro.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of something else. Like, I was thinking like the Los Angeles Rams, like they went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and Jared Goff, you could make the same point. Like a lot of people, they basically thought he wasn't the right quarterback to win the playoffs, so they made a trade to get Matthew Stafford an upgrade. That sounds like what the Cowboys need to do, but I think it's the coaching, honestly. Like I look at these playoff games and every time it doesn't go our way, like the coaching staff just looks confused. Like they don't do a good job of making adjustments. And I think Dak looks really unprepared. Really, the whole team does. I look at like Sean McVay, like even when things don't go their way, they still got something up their sleeve. I don't see that with Mike McCarthy and his coaching staff.
That's
Like I
fair.
really think it's the coaching staff that needs to be changed. I was really upset when they didn't make any changes really after that Packers game. Um, if we had somebody like a Sean McVay or like a Kyle Shanahan or like a Matt LaFleur, like if we had one of those guys who can make in-game adjustments, who could tell the quarterback certain things in the game, I would feel much more confident with Dak in the playoffs. But I feel like Dak doesn't really have that guy. He's only had two coaches. He's had Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy as his two coaches. That kind of those aren't the coaches that get you excited. Like when I think of football, I think of like schemes and all that, and a lot of it is the coaching staff. They really do dictate the football game. That's what it comes down to. You look at guys like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Bill Belichick, like those guys get you excited. They get paid a lot, and they're a big reason why Super Bowls are won. I feel like if Dak had that type of coach where, you gets you really pumped up to play for, maybe you could see some different things in the Big D. But I just don't see that with Mike McCarthy. He doesn't really like move me. I don't really have a lot of confidence in him, especially in the playoffs.
So just going through your arguments. So you think we can win a Super Bowl with Dak?
I think we can win a Super Bowl with Dak. Yeah.
Let's just remember, like, we're all Dallas fans. We were all alive. The person I always relate Dak back to is Dirk. All right, Dirk was for the first like
Wait, you said
10.
you relate Dak to Dirk?
Yeah. Well, trust. Not in the playing styles. All right. Wait. Trust. Not in the playing styles. But listen, I don't know if y'all remember. We were all pretty young when this was happening. But first 10, 15 years of Dirk's career, what was he known as? A choker. He couldn't get it done in the playoffs. He was good in the regular season. We were literally the number 1 seed, 67 and 15 in 2007, and we lost to the 8 seed, the Warriors. We were the year before that, we were up 2-0 in the finals against the Heat, and we blew a 2-0 lead. All of his career, he was known as a playoff choker, that he couldn't get it done in the playoffs. He was weak. He was European. All of these things, and then all of a sudden, that all goes away. All in one magical run, 2011, he finally gets it done. Now, I'm not saying that Dak is on Dirk's level, but I'm just saying, bro, like Dirk was 33 when he won the title. And that changed the perception of his whole legacy. His whole legacy was saved because of that one ring. I would rather take the chance with Dak making that Dirk run 1 year where he figures it out, where he has a competent team around him, a competent coaching staff. Because Sahil brings up a great point, bro. The look that our coaching staff has in those playoff games is like it's terrible. Like it looks like we didn't prepare at that week at all. And so that's all I'm saying is I would rather take the chance because all you need to do is win 4 games to win the Super Bowl. That's all you gotta do. If we can go on a 4-game winning streak in January, I think Dak can give us a 4-game winning streak in January. I think we can win the Super Bowl. That's all I'm gonna say. And I think that's the faster way for us to win the Super Bowl. But like I said, the front office needs to be better and the coaching needs to be better, like Sahil said.
Do you think we should give him a contract though, like right now, Dak?
I would give him a 3-year contract, 60 million. I would give him 3 years, 180 million. Just one last contract, see how that goes. Give us some stability. Pay Micah, pay Ceedee. Let these next 3 years be the decider. And if we can't really get it done after these next 3 years, then it's time to move on.
I like the 3-year contract. I'm actually okay with just playing it out. I think this could be a good like make it or break it year. So I'm okay with him playing on the last year of the deal. If he walks away, then yeah, I feel like this should be like a prove it year.
I'm cool with the prove it year. I think that it would be unwise to give him 3 years, 60 million now. It's Tony Romo copy and paste. And we talk about fear of not finding that quarterback in the draft. I mean, we kind of had that same mentality when it comes to Tony Romo, and Tony Romo had like a lot of the same struggles in the playoffs as Dak. And yeah, I think that we were supposed to talk about Ceedee Lamb.
Pay Ceedee. That's our mantra. Pay.
So we're all on the same page of paying.
Yeah,
Ceedee,
we should Ceedee. Yeah. But what?
But yeah, I think Ceedee Lamb is a number 1 wide receiver in the league, and I think that he deserves to get paid. So they need to do that ASAP. And we even argued who's the best player on the team, Micah Parsons or Ceedee Lamb. So hopefully the Cowboys can get that figured out. Just wrapping up. Hey, again, we went way over time. Like
one day.
Yeah, we'll get it down one day. Sahil, I'm really glad that you joined. How are you feeling after your first podcast, man?
No, it was fun talking with y'all. Thanks for having me. It's a really cool idea that y'all had. But yeah, keep it up, man. It's fun to listen to.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you and having you on in the future for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
Any last words? Any last thoughts, guys, before we wrap up?
Hey, look forward to it again next week, fellas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, lock in Dallas. We're out.